Queensland on the infrastructure front, with the additional announcements yesterday, is actually the lowest spending per capita. Was that disappointing to find out?
Well, we've got a $10 billion insurance pool that's been announced, and that's mainly going to help North Queensland. And that's been thanks to the fantastic work of the North Queensland MPs, Warren Ench.
So because that got handed out, you don't get as much infrastructure money?
Well, you know, I would consider that infrastructure in the sense putting $10 billion to a reinsurance pool. You know, I think that's a hell of a lot of money.
That won't spend. That won't do anything about infrastructure, though. A reinsurance.
Well, it will, because you've got to rebuild houses. All of this stuff will go to private infrastructure, you know, houses and farms and businesses. It's going to make, and you know, it's got to be said here, this has all come about because state Labor governments, especially in Queensland, sold. Well, actually, I'll rephrase it. The Queensland Labor government, in the past, sold Suncorp Metway. Suncorp Metway is the old SGIO, and all state governments did it. It was also on our side, except I think in New
But it's
South
not
Wales
infrastructure, is it?
Well, hang on. No, it is infrastructure, because ultimately having an insurance pool that underwrites risk and investment is a good thing for this country.
But it's not. But it's not for public infrastructure, is it? For people's homes. They're different things.
Well, and
you can say it's a good idea.
And businesses, so the businesses
but they're not
can
infrastructure
get up.
either.
Well, I would argue that, you know, business to an extent is infrastructure. It's all a part of the network.
I mean, is a fish and chip shop infrastructure?
Well, yeah, because if you don't, well, I'll put it this way, it's all government spending, and it's constructive, productive government spending that gives people the confidence.
But it doesn't mean it's
to
on
invest.
infrastructure. It could be a good idea.
Well, I think it's a very good idea.
But it's not infrastructure, is it?
Well, it's all about increasing investment, right? And I think this is a very good idea.
How much, out of interest, how much do you expect insurance premiums to fall because of this reinsurance premium? Because I can't sort of get anyone in the government to tell anyone in North Queensland how much they'll save as a result of this.
Look, I have to come back to you on that. And yeah.
So again, we still don't know. It's a reinsurance pool. We don't know how much anyone's going to save or when they'll start. When will people start seeing their insurance?
Well, Murray, let's wait until the budget's finished.
But this announcement's out there. You're saying it's a great idea. It's a huge pot of money.
Yep.
Shouldn't we know how much it's going to save a premium by?
Yeah, sure, and all these things, but it'll depend. I mean, do you want me to give you a standard premium across all the different businesses, all the different homes,
you could give an average.
etc.? Well, but an average is a meaningless number because everyone's going to have different risk.
The average from the minister,
I mean,
you
can't put one figure on all
the average from one of the ministers was 6,000, and they might save in the order of 10%, which doesn't strike me as a game changer.
Well, it might be if you're that business who's getting by on you know, week to week. I mean, it depends. I mean, you can't put one number. Like an average number implies that this is the same for everything. I mean, that's a totally unrealistic question to ask because you'd have to go down because it's all about risk reward,
Don't we need
right?
an average? What's the alternative? Just to provide a fact sheet with every single home and business in the state?
Well, you know, it's like asking a bank, you know, to ask the details of every customer. I mean, it's an unrealistic.
No, but they'll give you an average for how much someone's behind on a mortgage, for example. They'll give you an average.
Well, that would be based on assumptions as well. And I mean, that's the thing about insurance. It's all for the unknown. So you're asking a question about the unknown.
Do you like the idea, the reinsurance pool?
We're certainly open to thinking about it. I mean, I do note that the ACCC, when they did their investigation into this, did not recommend a reinsurance
Right, so that's
pool.
why I'm asking.
Yeah, and I mean, frankly, I would just like to see this government do anything about insurance in North Queensland.
Well, they've done this. They've announced
they've made an announcement, but we can't get a figure about how much people will save or when people will save. So what I want to see is insurance costs come down for North Queenslanders because it is a huge problem.
A couple of quick ones. Tourism, a big call out for help here. Opening up has been delayed. What do you think of this idea from advocacy groups here of a JobKeeper style program, revenue down by 50% or more, $1,000 per employee?
Well, we have always said that the government should have a flexible attitude towards JobKeeper and that there might be certain regions or certain industries that need that kind of support for longer.
You'd tick off on that?
Well, I mean, I'd want to see the detail, but we're open to that idea, yeah.
Gerard, what do you think of that?
Well, look, I mean, I think we've done a very good job in rebuilding the economy after COVID, period.
But for these tourism businesses relying on international visitors, if there's a delay in opening, don't they need a bit more help?
Well, it depends on which business and, you know, like I read just the other day now, Cairns has become the new Bali. So there's a lot to be said for domestic tourism, filling in the gaps of international tourism.
All right.
The problem with areas like Cairns, though, is that they have always been highly dependent on international tourists. And you're right, I was in Cairns myself. Hotels are doing well, restaurants, but reef operators, there's a range of other people who are.
Just want to ask you finally and quickly, India. Should Australia just, don't worry about the court case, not stop its citizens getting back to the country?
Well, look, it's worth noting that I think if we've learned something from the India thing, it's that the international borders is what's been keeping us safe. And in terms of managing risk. There's a much greater risk from India, for example, than what we've seen with state premiers shutting down borders over one or two cases. So it's hypocritical of Labor to be attacking us for trying to keep Australians safe, right? So I think that needs to be noted. Would have I necessarily gone out as hard as we did? Probably not. I think we could have gone just get 2 tests 7 days apart, and that would have given us 7 days breathing space. But I think going forward, it needs to be noted that if we look at Japan, Korea and Taiwan, it was their early closure of international borders like ourselves that has been keeping Australians safe.
You'll have to keep your powder dry on that one.
I
I'm
mean,
already over time.
The issue,
Sorry, mate.
there are several thousand Australians who are not being kept safe now because of this
time, mate.
government's failure to open quarantine facilities.
I'm getting the time calls from Gerard now.
Sure.
Gerard Murray, talk again soon.